when you first start with ShareFile, you get assigned an account URL. Your account URL is just like any kind of website URL, right? As you see up here, I launched up my browser and I can access my ShareFile URL by just typing in, just like I mine here, sharefilerocks.sharefile.com. You're going to have the first half of this is usually your company name, or it's something personalized. If you set your account up, well, something you personalize in the beginning. But let's say, for instance, you forgot that URL, right? You don't know how to get that URL. Perhaps somebody signed you up and you have a user account and you know you signed up, but you forgot where to go to. So one thing always to remember is if you go to your personal mailbox, you can always kind of jump into here and see, of course, the invite that you got to activate your user account on your instance. So if you are a user, you should have gotten an email similar to this. Your administrator should have sent you an email. You can always search for the ShareFile name, or you can look up the email address that is sent to you. That's mail@sf-notifications.com, and you should see this activation email. The one thing to spot out is down here below, you'll see the URL that it links to. So that's an easy way just to, if you forgot your instance account URL, you can always jump back in your email, look for that ShareFile account, and you'll see down below, you'll have your URL listed down here below. So coming back over to our login page, things I want to mention here is you do have two methods of logging in to your user. First off, on the left-hand side, you have your company employee sign-in. Note that this is usually your single sign-on with other services within your company. If you don't know if you have an account for your company login, reach out to your local administrator within your company to be sure that you can, of course, sign in with that single sign-on process. If you don't, and you activated your account, just like I showed you through that email, you'll log into the right-hand side by using your email address and your password. When you did activate your account, it will go through the process of setting up your password. Also, if you did have two-factor enabled by your administrator within ShareFile, it will set that up for you as well, and we'll get into that a little later. But below, if you did forget your password, say it's been a while, or you got the account and you haven't logged in, maybe it was in the past week or so, you do have the forget password down here. And if you click that, it's going to just simply ask for your email address here. You do have a reCAPTCHA. We know we love these, right? If you see here, we have our buses. You could go through this process to get that reset. Make sure, again, if you did forget it, no problem. You don't need to reach out to anybody. This should be self-service.
And here we are at our dashboard. We have 4 separate tiles that we see showing. The first is our recent files, and this will give you a list of files that you have touched or worked with prior to this login. To our right here, we are seeing favorites, and this will list any files or folders that you have selected to be a part of that favorite area. It sort of keeps you from having to dig down for items if they have an extensive folder tree.
I love the shortcut section because that's where I live the most. Most of your active functions or your tasks are going to live within the shortcuts here. So first off, you have the share file section here. This is just like it sounds. We're going to share a file or a folder or many files from this shortcut in a minute. Then we can request files. Like I said, it's a two-way lane, right? We can share and also request files to us. We can create a user. So we'll go over this if we have some time. I just want to be sure that we carve some time out, but this is actually creating a user for ShareFile. We have 2 different types of users within ShareFile. We have something called an employee, and that employee is a licensed user. This is what you are actually seeing here. A licensed user has all the different other functionality that I'm going to go through today. But we also have something called clients. Clients are non-licensed users. Think of these as people you're working with externally that you're sending files to or requesting files from. So just want to mention that real quick. And then your personal folders, that will just take you right to your personal folders section here. Same thing with shared folders. You have your favorites, just like we showed a little bit ago. Your feedback and approval is one of our built-in workflows down here. This is a great way to automate some actions in terms of obtaining feedback and approval for files. And then you have Send for Signature. Send for Signature is our Write Signature add-on. That is something if you needed some kind of document signed. If you ever needed that done, you could use write signature or the option send for signature to get a document easily signed. If you don't have that option and you're looking for, of course, a e-signing solution, definitely reach out to your account rep and look out for trying to get that integrated into the instance that you already have.
And then we have tutorials. Some more getting started videos here. You can pick your area of knowledge with the tiers that you see here in the drop-down list. If you are a little bit more advanced and want to look at some advanced resources, you can select that area as well. And then our ShareFile apps are going to focus more on the desktop tools.
So let's kind of jump right into sharing a file here. When I click it, the first thing it's going to ask is, I need a file to share. Now, first thing to mention is that we could just simply drag and drop files from our desktop. Simple enough, right? But say, for instance, I also had files that are already in ShareFile that I want to share out. I'm going to show a couple different ways after this and how you do it, but I can either click on this and click on from ShareFile, and that will actually show my personal and my shared folders, and I could jump into there and select a file or a folder if I will. But for this instance, I'm just going to drag over a file I already have. This is my super secret plans that I need to send out to my client. And now, as you can see, it uploaded. This wasn't already existing in ShareFile. So that will actually go to my file box. Remember, we talked about your file box. We talked about the file box and how that is temporary. That will actually go to the file box there. Now, I can add more items, or I can continue the drag and drop. So you could do either or. And again, if I choose from my device, it's going to be the same thing in terms of accessing my local machine so that I can bring over a file. So I can continue. And now that will automatically generate a URL that I can then simply copy and share out. Now, the first thing you want to see here and mention is that people can anonymously download. So this basically means that this link, I can send this to anyone, and this anonymously will basically allow anyone to access that file that I shared. So for example, if I did send this to a client either through chat or through a separate email, if I actually put that in, automatically, they don't have to do anything. They don't have to log in. They don't have to do anything else other than, hey, we see our secret plan here, we see the Word doc, and we're able to download it, do what we actually need to do with the file itself. But we want to be more secure, correct? So what we want to do is edit this option. And from here, we can add that security that ShareFile is known for. So from here, we can do a couple things where we can either have it view or download. We do also have the edit option, so we can edit live. This particular document we can't do just for restrictions, but if you wanted to, we can actually use co-editing to edit that document that I have selected. Then also we have who can access the link. So this is where the security comes in, right? As you can see, we automatically have this set as anonymous, meaning anyone can access that link. If I send it to them, they should be able to do it. We have a couple other flavors like name and email required. So before they get to that document, it's going to request their name and email. And then we also have the sign-in options. These are very important. I always like to, of course, utilize the sign-in required. So what that means is once I send that link out to somebody, they're required to log in with their ShareFile user, right? One note on that is probably you're thinking, well, what if they don't have a ShareFile account in my instance already? So that's okay. I'll show in a minute here how we send out to people via email. Instead of just sending them a link, because what happens there is it will ask them to create an account first, or I'm sorry, a notification will be sent to them indicating they need to activate an account, and it will step them through a wizard in creating the account themselves. So this is very important. Just be sure that you do change that if you do want a little bit more security, or if it's something more public, it's a public announcement for your company, you can always keep it as anonymous. Then you have the access expires. This is when the link expires. It's not when the data expires. It's not going to delete the file that you're sharing. This is expiring just the link that we're sharing. Remember, we're not actually giving them a file. We're not sending them a file. We're giving them a link they can access to that file. So we can expire that URL at these particular times. Like if it's very sensitive, time sensitive, I don't want anyone accessing it after a day, we can choose that. And then a couple other things here is that we can always use the latest version. We do have something called version within ShareFile, so it's not going to just overwrite files. When you upload a file with the same name, let's say in the same folder, it will save it as a new copy or a new version. This option just makes sure that we're using the latest version of that file if there are multiple versions of it. And then we have add a watermark. So we do have the ability to add a watermark overlaying the actual file that we're sending. We're not going to get into that today. And then finally, we have the notifications of when that link is accessed. So whenever we're sending it to somebody accesses that link, we're going to be getting a notification back to indicate, hey, they opened the link, they downloaded it, or whatnot. So it's really good just to understand that, hey, somebody actually accessed that data. Okay, so we can save there. Now, if I wanted to keep the anonymous link, I can also create a separate link with those other options, if you will. So I can easily create multiple links with different varying permissions if you wanted to do that. So you don't necessarily need to keep it to one link. You don't just have to edit just this one. Or if you want, you can replace it or delete the link in total. But just remember, if I'm deleting this link and I did send this over to, say, my friend John Doe, and say, remember, we set that for 1-day expiration, you know, and they can abide by that. But say, for instance, you did want to delete that ahead of time, you can simply come here and delete it, and then those people, the person that I sent it to, wouldn't be able to access that data. So we talked about just creating that link. As you can see, it was super simple in creating that link. I could copy it, send that over through any method that I can think of. But what if we need to send it through email? So we do have the capability of sending it through email directly through ShareFile. You don't got to go outside of ShareFile to send an email. So let's go through that real quick. So instead of using the link, if I clicked on the send to specific people, a couple options to be aware of is we do have an encryption option. Remember, your data at rest in transit is already encrypted. This encryption option, if you do see it, that allows you to encrypt the body of the message. We just did a webinar all on this, so you can check out our YouTube page to actually see how that function works. But from here, all I would need to do is, of course, if I want to edit those options, remember, just like I had previously in the links before, I can edit those security options. But then I can just simply send it to somebody that I want to share this with. So as you saw before, I had Mr. John Doe as that new client. So I need to send him an email with that document. Now, that person, as you can see, I can simply start typing, or I can hit the address book here to find who I need to send this to, but it will automatically come up with names it finds. You can simply add in an email address here if they don't exist in ShareFile. Remember, like I said, if they don't exist and I send them an email, and remember, if I say I set this to require to log in, they need an account, right, to log into, they will get another email notification with this link to activate their account, and it will go through a wizard with them to do it. So then I can add a little bit of personalization to our subject here and add a little bit of a message here about the document if I wanted to. I could also tell it to remember the subject and message. If I had something customized and I wanted to keep that, you could do that there. But that's simply it. All I need to do is send that off. That share is actually sent. And let's go over to Mr. John Doe's email box here, because this would be his email box. As a client, I would obtain it just like this. If I open it, I'll have the direct link to that file. Again, there are different aspects of how this looks with the encryption. That changes a little bit of things of how it opens up as well. But this is very simple, right? I set that up. I just sent it over to John Doe. I kept those original settings as they were. And all the client would have to do is simply click on view, and that will pop up my super secret plans. Now, as you saw there, you might have saw it when I went through the edit options. I didn't allow them to download. I only wanted them to view. So as you can see, the download option is no longer available. They can't download it. They can just simply preview it. And of course, that will also show this in this Word doc, this Office Word doc, that it is protected and they can't download it. So a little example of just what the client will experience when they go through it. Again, if they did require sign in, we did add that extra layer of security. that will then prevent them from accessing it until they log in. So I just want to stress that fact, because I know that usually a lot of questions of, well, they're not part of the system. How do I get them to create an account? So if I didn't have an account, there would be 2 emails here, one with the activating of the account. Before that, then you will get the actual link, just like you saw in the email, and they'll log in with the account they just set up. All employees will get an inbox, right, for your account. Your inbox, just think of it as, again, just your normal company email inbox, right? You have your sent, you have your inbox itself, your received files, you have an archive section here. So these are any shares that are sent to you or you are sending out. So for instance, just like that one I sent out, I can come into the sent folder here, the sent from the inbox, and there's my last sent that I actually have here. So I can actually come into here if I wanted to. I can just simply click on it, and this will give me some review of what's going on. As you can see, here are a couple options. I can actually view the document I sent or the message I sent. I could also tell it just to resend the email notification. So this way, if they say they forgot it, maybe it went through their spam by accident, maybe they're just kind of just getting back into their inbox and they missed it, make sure that you could just simply come here and resend. It'll be the file that I sent, and then a little bit of the history of the date and the time that I sent it at. So this is a good, easy way to show that I can jump in here and be sure that that did send out, or if I did need to resend it, I can come in here and simply be able to do that. Another point is you do have the expiring link. Remember I showed you when we're first sharing out, I could simply delete that link if I wanted to. You could also do it from here. So if I come in here, I can simply expire that and say yes, and that will show now that it's expired. So do note that, once I do send an expiration on the link, you do show that you have an expiration limit here based on what you set. So that is another important point to note that, hey, did it expire or is it still alive? You can always check on the right-hand side here. Same thing though, if you did say you received a file and you don't remember where it went to, you can always come into received. Same kind of concept here. You can see the exact notification that you got, and you can open up the share link that contains the data, and you can simply click on that and you're ready to go. You can archive items. So if you did just want to kind of keep your inbox clean, like we always want to, right? I'm a clean freak. I'm OCD about these things. So typically I like to archive things. Later on, I like to come back into my archive. If there was something I forgot, I can always come back there. So archive is just simply that. I'm just archiving that email or the message that I received into the archive. So later on, I can retrieve it if need be.
Now we see request files. I'm going to choose this area. And this is looking a little bit different than our share, because right now what it's asking us is, where do we want the data to go that I'm asking for? By default, it's going to go to our file box. And this is a generic landing spot for request links. And this spot, as I back out of here and show you the file box, I'm going to go to folders. And then our file box is right here. And you notice here, it has a retention of 180 days. So if you're asking for items through your request link and choosing this area, you need to keep in mind that if it's something you probably want to keep past 180 days, move it to a different location other than the file box, because at that point, it's going to be permanently deleted from the account and cannot be retrieved.
As you can see, it's basically file request from John Bartel. And this is my company name that I have for ShareFile. My ShareFile rocks. And again, I can simply drag and drop if I wanted to, or if I click Browse Files, it's going to open up just Windows Explorer. Since I'm on a Windows machine, it's going to go to my downloads, or if the file's in my documents, you can actually access it there. And actually, while I'm in here, I could just do it this way instead of drag and drop. And now I have the file that I want in here to upload. And all they would need to do is click upload, and that file has been uploaded there. You get a confirmation. Let me get one other file. The amount of, or the size of the file does matter. We do cap it at about 100 gigabytes. So you could always chunk those down if you wanted to. Just for an example, if it was a zipped file, meaning you had several files within a zipped or compressed file itself, you could break those out and upload those if it exceeds that. But more particularly, yeah, single file, 100 gigs, it's usually pretty rare. If I did need to upload multiples, again, that screen will stay the same. I drag and drop this in and I was able to upload again. And this will come back to the screen where it can continue to upload. All right, so let's get into folders. So we talked about sharing, we talked about receiving files. Now let's jump into how we organize and how we share out folders within ShareFile. So as I mentioned, like a fresh account, remember we didn't have any shared folders. We didn't have any personal folders in here. So as you can see on this account, we have a nice set of different options here that we can work off of. So you can always create a folder by going up to the top right here and create folder. We'll just create one for testing. And yeah, we want to add people to this folder, but I want to show a different way just so it encompasses all of managing the folder itself. But all we really need to do here is name the folder and create it. And within here, obviously it's empty, right? Now I can simply drag and drop. So like we have a new hire confirmation document that I want in here. I have some IT testing documentation I need in here. That needs to remain. So this folder is created, but it was only created by me. I didn't add anybody. Remember, you saw that add people to the folder section. I did skip it. You can say yes to that and you can add people there, but I love to show this way. So I have my items in here, but off to the right side, you have people on this folder. So people on this folder means just that, means who has access to this folder. Now it could be varying different permissions, as you will see here, but here I could see who has access. From here, this is me, this is the owner. Of course, I have full access to my folder. We do have super users. This is a particular group of admins that have access to basically any folder within ShareFile. Again, not a subject for this discussion, but you will see that sometimes automatically come in. But if I needed to add somebody, say I needed to add Mr. John Doe to this folder, right? And remember, John Doe could be a client, could be an employee, could be anyone that might just need access to this. So from here, I can actually simply start typing in the name, just like we had. And remember, you do have the address book here. But I can come in here and add Mr. John Doe. And you have the permissions off to the right. Permissions are pretty straightforward of what they are. So you do have the view option. So if I only had view, that means they only could see or view the documents that are in there. That's about it. Downloading gives them the ability to view and download. Upload allows them to then upload files to this new folder. Delete allows people to simply come in here and delete any file or folder within this section. So be very cautious with this. You don't want really anyone to have delete options unless it's maybe somebody you're working with and they have access to it and they might need to do some cleanup here and there.
Or a client too.
Or a client, correct.
Yeah, if they have their, let's say you're an accountant and you want your client to be able to upload files, but maybe you also want to give them the option to delete or move, then you want to make sure you have it.
Yes, and that's a good point, because if we do move a actual file, we do need the delete option, because that in effect deletes the file from the originating location. So that's a very good point. And then you have admin. Admin does basically two things. It allows that person to be able to add additional people to this folder, but also allows them to do things like reporting, just like I showed you in terms of reporting on the folder. So you do have that access. Again, be very lenient on these two options. Could be that you want them to delete, be able to delete those files. You might not want them to administer or add additional people to the folder. So just be very lenient on who you're accessing or who you're giving access to in terms of administration and being able to delete. And then in here, you do have the folder alerts. So ShareFile is very big with notifications. We do want to be sure that you know what's going on in these folders or just inside the instance itself. So you do have alerts, so you can alert yourself to being, of course, alerted for downloads, which typically you wouldn't want to be alerted every time there was a download. And by the way, you do have to be an admin for that to work. But again, this is typically not used a lot unless you really want to monitor that folder. But you also do have upload. You do have upload alerts. I think that's really good to have, because if you're an owner, there's obviously somebody that's going to upload something. You just want to monitor what is being uploaded into the folder. So you'll get notifications on that. And then also notifications on when people are added. And then also applying settings to subfolders. So this is really important as well. The settings that I have here for Mr. John Doe, any folder that's within the testing folder will apply the same permissions. So be very cautious of that. If you didn't want to give them permissions to every subfolder under that, or you only wanted to give them certain permissions to certain folders within that, say that group of folders, then you might want to uncheck that and be sure to apply them individually to those folders. But other than that, once I added Mr. John Doe, as you can see, I didn't add him as an admin. He's there. He's now able to actually get access to that testing folder. So what we'll see is, as the client, we'll be notified that, hey, you've been added to a folder. And now I can simply click that link and it will navigate me directly to that folder. There we go. So as Mr. John Doe is here, I can now access this folder and be able to do what I need to do here. And just like I said, I gave him upload permissions, so that gives him a fair amount of ability to be able to upload things that I need from him on that folder. So let's come back over here. So we talked a little bit about just folder permissions, how that worked, and so forth. And in reality, again, there are a couple different ways of how we share it. I showed you the simple way of doing it through the shortcut, but say for instance, now John Doe has access to this folder and he needs to actually share something out. Maybe he needs to send this over to his client. Maybe he's an employee that's working on this project. So I could easily, if I wanted to, check mark, and I could check mark multiple files, as you can see, or I could check mark the whole folder, if anything, as you can see here, and I could simply click share. And from here, as you can see, I'll have my 2 files listed, and the same options that we had previously. I could either create the get a link or send this to a specific person. Remember, send to a specific person is through the email method, and then get a link is just generating the link directly for you, right? As you see here, we have some of the edit options here. This is one I wanted to show. It was grayed out in the other one because we couldn't edit that one. But the edit option, if we give them that, will allow them to view, download, and edit this, and they can actually co-edit that document. So we do leverage Office for co-editing so that people can work on the same file at the same time in real time. So that's a really cool feature. If you did want to say, Mr. John Doe wants to work with an employee, want to document together, you can choose to edit. And that does require them to sign in to be able to authenticate and to log into that account before they can start editing that document. So I just wanted to show just, again, another method of just sharing. I don't need to go back out to my dashboard. I could simply go into the folder that I want to share out, simply click share, and I'm ready to share those files out just like I showed you before.
All right, I'm going to go back to the account here, and I'm going to go into our client folder and set up a document to send to Cord for signature. This is the integration piece as far as right signature. So let me go into shared folders. Choose client folder. I've got my document ready that I want to send for signature, so I'm going to select it here. I can either choose send for signature here, or if you right click on the document, you get the same options in a drop down. And at this point, it's taking me over to the right signature portal so I can begin preparing my document to send for signature. I'm going to choose prepare document. And let me type in our user who's going to receive it. Make sure everything's spelled. There we go. Spelled correctly. All right. Demonstration Citrix at gmail.com. We're going to click on next, place fields. And at this point, I'm going to do three fields, I think, 3 to 4 fields. Right now, I'm going to focus on my text field that is already selected here. And I see my green box right here that I can place. I'm going to ask for a first name. I'm going to ask for a last name. Make these a little bit bigger so they can enter their signatures or their text. And at this point, I only need one of these areas to be filled in. So I'm just going to leave the group requirement only one. If you needed more than one, you would just pull the drop-down list and choose one or more. But I just need one of these filled in. So we'll leave it as is. And the last one I need to do is a signature box. So we'll choose signature field. We're going to scroll down and choose a good area where we need a signature right here. Perfect. And let's throw a date field in there as well. And we'll put a date box right here. All right, I'm gonna take a quick overview of my document, make sure everything's filled in correctly. I have my date, my signature, my checkbox group, and my 2 text areas. Click on next review. I'm gonna send the document at this point, and we will switch over to Cord, and he will show you what that looks like for an individual receiving this document and needing it to fill it out.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. So as we can see here, Ricardo has sent over that document for signature. So I just open it here. I see a tiny little preview of the document and some information about it. And then I just click review and sign. And it'll bring up the document. As you can see here, you have on the left, you have these little red flags that tell you which fields are required and will go down as you complete the document. So go ahead and put first and last name. Choose one of our checkbox here. And as we can see, it only lets us choose one because of how they set them up. And then my little red flag's telling me to go down here to the signature. So I just come down here. Can do a drawn signature like that. I also have the option to do a type signature. And I'll go ahead and enter it there. And then we can choose a date. So I can go here and select today. We also have the option to save progress. So if you have a particularly long form, your users can save progress. And then when they come back in, all their information will be saved. But we'll go ahead and do a submit signature here. And it should have gone through. Seems to have kicked me out here real quick. All right, yeah. So as we can see, the document has been completed. So we come back to our inbox here. We have the executed document. So all we have to do now is if we do view document, we can see the copy that we as a client have completed. So we see our name, signature, everything. At the very bottom, we also have the signature certificate, and this has all the important information that makes it a legally binding certificate, IP addresses, all that good stuff.
And we are in my client folder, and as we can see, that document Cord just signed is now showing up finished within my folder here. This is also a good area to check if you're looking for completed right signature documents.
You're going to see down here, you're going to have your personal settings. And from here, a couple different things. You can always edit your first name, last name, if anything. You can add a nice little profile picture just to customize a little bit. You could change your password once you're logged in. Remember, you do have the self-service before you log in if you did forget your password. You do have the ability to edit your email or alter or add an alternative, I should say. One big thing I love to show here is the email frequency. We talked a lot about notifications and how that worked. In terms of sharing things and getting notifications when people are added to folders and when they upload things. Emails sometimes come in a lot when you're added to, say, several folders. So if you want to reduce that, by default, we're in real time, meaning if I uploaded something to that folder and you're set to get notifications when an upload, you will get that real time, meaning you'll get that right when that finishes. If you wanted to consolidate some of your notifications, you could do that by going down to the email frequency and choosing how you want to consolidate it. So let's take, for example, because I love using once a day. Once a day means within a whole day, you'll get one email notification with all the activity or the notifications you've gotten in ShareFile. This way, if you're just looking for an overview of what was happening for the day, towards the end of the day, you're like, hey, I just want to know what was going on in my ShareFile instance. You'll get that one email and it will list all the activity that has occurred that you're signed up for in terms of your folder, or when you shared something, when you get notified that person accessed the file, you'll be all consolidated into one email a day. So it'll be the same thing if we did 15 minutes every hour or twice a day. So it just, again, consolidates notifications for anything that's happening in ShareFile for your user account.
The last thing I wanted to show was connecting a public cloud connector. And at this point, I am seeing Google Drive and OneDrive. So basically these have been enabled for my account to use. If you're not seeing these in this area and you're not an admin, you may want to reach out to the admin of the account just to make sure these are turned on to be used for the account. For the sake of this demonstration, I went ahead and enabled both of these. I'm going to choose the Google Drive, and then I'm going to choose Authenticate. And now I need to choose the Google account to authenticate with. I'm going to choose our demonstration account we've been working with today. And allow. And now you can see my Google Drive. Data that's stored in my Google Drive is now able to be accessed through ShareFile. When I select an item, I have a download option, I have a share option. I can delete it, which means it's going to remove it from that Google Drive area. So be wary of that. I can preview the document, and the more options I have are to move, copy, or rename. Moving is just going to populate the folder tree for my ShareFile account, and it allows me to take this document out of Google Drive and put it somewhere in ShareFile. Copy essentially would be the same, except you're going to have that document, an instance of that document remain in Google Drive, and an instance of that document be a part of ShareFile at the same time.
If you want to see what our apps are all about, simply click on the app section here. And you'll actually see that we have various different clients for different purposes, right? So we do have files for Windows here. This allows you to put in a just a shared drive letter in Windows Explorer. If you're not familiar with what that looks like, let me just kind of drive over my Explorer window here. So what Files does is we'll actually add a little shortcut to all of your folders that you have selected in ShareFile. So once I actually signed in and installed the application, I could simply navigate through, and here's all the files that I have, or folders that I have in ShareFile. So it's a very easy way to access folders and files instead of going through a browser. You have the Outlook plugin that easily allows you to send email without having an actual attachment on the email itself. It actually generates a link for you right through your Outlook email. So it's a very easy way of doing that. And then down below, we have a couple other ones just like the Outlook. We do have it for Gmail as well. So that's another nice little tool. If you're a Gmail user, we do have an easy tool to utilize so that you could create shares right through Gmail and send them off to your users. But definitely, as you can see, we do also have it for Mac as well. So if you go to the Mac section, we have pretty much similar. We do have mobile applications for Android and iOS. So we have those, and then we have the third-party integrations. We talk a little bit about that, some of our more popular ones. In case you're looking for integrations outside of ShareFile, it is a great place to start looking at what you can actually do with ShareFile and integration. For all the things that we kind of talked about today, I want to introduce off to the bottom right, you'll see that little ShareFile icon pop up. Reintroduced a lot of different functionality within this option. This is our resource center. So say for instance, the things that I showed you today, like sharing a file, requesting a file, or setting up folders, use this icon to be able to jump in and look at support articles, or even better, getting started. These are awesome. These are self-guided functions where it will show you how to do it in real time. So for instance, if I wanted to create a folder, it's going to jump into selecting a folder. So it's going to guide me through. It's going to tell me to go into my personal folder. This is just an example. Oh, and I can create a folder from here. So it's very nice and guided. It goes through a couple different ones. We're continuously adding to here. I love this one also, to get the file signed. So again, that's a right signature one. So if you're new to right signature, this is a great one to show. But these are all self-guided. This is really easy way to just kind of go through and understand, again, some of the simple functions and tasks that you can, of course, accomplish within ShareFile. And back here, we have what's new. keep an eye on these. These will pop up with a little red icon if they're new. These are some things. It's like this awesome customer success engineering. We have a video out to show, of course, some of the other customer success engineers we have on the team. And we have some of the new things like accelerated onboarding for new clients we have. This will show you how it works. Great little resource. And then finally, we have support articles. These are great. These are mostly all frequently used support articles that we have out there. You do have a search bar up here at the top if you're looking for a particular topic. But if, say, for instance, we need to modify folder options, that will take me right to the how to modify folder options link, and that will just guide me through just how to do that. So great resource, again, if you're new to, of course, ShareFile, or you forgot to do something. Aside from even just going to the dashboard and looking at our videos, we do have the ability to come here and help get you guided a little more particular than if you were to just find it on your own, say through Google.